Welcome to ILTV's Insider. I'm Aaron Porras, and today we have a particularly difficult question to discuss: whether Israel is doing enough on behalf of its citizens, in particular on behalf of the men and women who fight for its safety and sovereignty. Well, many argue that the answer is unfortunately no, as evidenced by the continuing captivity of 4 Israelis at the hands of the Hamas terror group in Gaza. This including 2 Israelis who allegedly suffer from mental health issues, Avraham Mengistu and Hisham al-Sayed, as well as the bodies of 2 Israeli soldiers who fought in the 2014 Gaza war, Staff Sergeant Oron Shaul and Lieutenant Hadar Goldin. And joining me to discuss is the woman perhaps at the forefront of the campaign to return these citizens, Lieutenant Goldin's mother, Leah Goldin. Leah, thank you so much for being with us today. I can't imagine what this conversation is like, but what has your experience been over these past 7 years since Hadar's capture?
It's a big frustration, you know. He should be here. We are almost 7 years since August 1st, 2014, where Hadar was killed and abducted 2 hours after ceasefire occurred. Now, this ceasefire was brokered by the United States, specifically John Kerry, and by the UN. And since they brokered this ceasefire, we are still hoping they should take responsibility for his return. So here we are talking about it again, hoping that this time will be our opportunity to rectify this awful thing.
So you just mentioned the United States' responsibility. What is Israel's responsibility then?
Look, Israel is part of the problem. Israel is part of the situation, and I'm not going to get into in any way to the political mess of Israel. But specifically, talking about Operation Protective Edge on August 1st, 2014, it was specifically an act of the American administration to impose ceasefire, where everybody knew that the Hamas is violating any agreement. So, in fact, that's what happened. 2 hours after ceasefire started, Hamas took advantage, knowing the Israeli soldiers' protocol is not to shoot, and simply killed 3 of them and kidnapped Hadar into the underground terror tunnels. And since then, we've been approaching the American administration to help rectify this situation, as they have leverage on the Hamas, they have leverage on the Arabic countries, and especially now, having all the initiatives in our region to improve the situation in our region with all the agreements that almost all the Arab countries are involved. This is the time where the Americans should bring my son back to rectify what they really initiated. Now, this is not just because I say so. It's because the Humanitarian international law says so, and it's because the UN resolution 2474 from June 2019 says that with any agreement, after an armed conflict, the ones that initiate the agreement are responsible to return the missing persons and the dead one as a confidence-building step. Talking about confidence-building steps, it's relevant now to all sides that are now involved in all the discussions around us.
So both from Israel and from the United States, with whom have you met, and what have they promised, and why do you think that those promises have not come true?
You know, I'm not a political person. I'm the mother of Hadar Goldin. So, in spite of that, we've been walking the world. We've been visiting the White House and the State Department. We were invited by the UN General Secretary Guterres, and they all admitted that it's their responsibility. But we are still waiting for them to implement it wherever there is a leverage. Because, look, after all, talking about Hamas, Hamas is a terror organization. We don't expect to change them, but we do expect to act to them as being a terror entity. But now that the American decided to turn the clock back, with respect to Iran nuclear agreement, with respect to UNRWA money to Gaza, who everybody knows it goes to Hamas. So now is the time to go back to August 1st, 2014, and rectify what actually the American, led by John Kerry, and just remember, Biden was at that time vice president of Obama, who on the same Black Friday came out and said that it's the responsibility of the Palestinian entities to return Hadar immediately and unconditionally if they want the world to take them seriously, and I'm quoting him. So I'm having that potential now that all the stars are aligned. All the players around us here and in the United States are the same people, are really the same people. So they know what I'm talking about. So now it's just about time to do the right thing and to rectify this injustice. The situation is the Hamas and the Palestinian entities are in a standing violation of the international humanitarian law. Returning my son to a decent burial, according to my religion, it doesn't cost money. It's the moral issue. It's the ultimate injustice. That's my request, that's my claim, and this is my expectation from all sides involved in whatever is happening around us internationally.
So again, going back to leveraging against Hamas, what leverage would you like to be done? I know you mentioned UNRWA funding, but of course Israel also imposes certain constraints on Hamas, and up until recently, the United States was also imposing certain restrictions on Hamas. What more needs to be done?
The fact that the United States is empowering the Hamas by giving them this money, and the fact that Israel is appeasing the Hamas by not responding to their missile shooting, this situation is not going anywhere. Because it just empowers the Hamas, unless the very same people and the very, very same decision makers will say enough and enough. If you want to play according to our rules and get the support, the humanitarian support, according to the humanitarian international law, then you should act accordingly. And accordingly mean you have to rectify this violation and return Hadar Goldin, Oron Shaul, Avera Mengistu, and Hisham Sayed. They are all illegally captured by the Hamas. And actually, this is a standing violation of the international law against all those that provide the humanitarian aid without insisting and combating this violation.
Now, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm looking at the reality that Hamas, as a terrorist organization, is, of course, ignoring all of these rules. So if Hamas makes demands, say for vaccinations or for even a prisoner swap, would you be in favor of that?
You know what? This is not a question that you should refer to me. This is the question you refer to the decision makers who know how to decide about other things. No one asked me to send Hadar to Gaza, and not just Hadar, also his twin brother, Tzur, who rescued a lot of Palestinians. No one asked me, so I'm not the one to answer. But if you want to know my opinion is humanitarian for humanitarian. If we want to support them humanitarian above what is mandatory according to the law, then they should obey. obey and return my son, because this is what the resolution 2474 is all about. You know, whenever you do agreements, either peace agreement, either a commercial agreement, or ceasefire agreement, or whatever you can name agreement, it means that now is the time that they have first to return my son and then continue to the discussions. Now, the fact is that no one is requesting it, which is so frustrating. No one is putting it on the agenda, as if, no, we shouldn't upset them, you know? So the whole behavior is like appeasement. It's not any behavior of winners that actually Gaza, and especially the Hamas, cannot live one day without this support, the international support, especially the corona time, where all the world was in a humanitarian crisis and everyone was cooperating to find solution, humanitarian solution. This is my wish and this is my request. Put the return of our boys on the agenda as a confidence-building step. Start requesting it, and it will be done. Because now it's not a matter of the Hamas, because the Hamas are terrorists. It's a matter for all the countries that support Hamas. Of course, I'm talking supporting Hamas because everyone knows that whatever goes into Gaza, like 60 to 70% goes to the Hamas because they rule Gaza. So this is our reality. You know, if the Hamas is our enemy, we should react to him as an enemy. You know, as a terror organization. You cannot, they cannot hold the stick on both sides. On one end say, we need your humanitarian support, but then they violate it. I mean, this is the double standard. And first of all, it's the United States, because the United States has leverage on Gaza, has leverage on all the Arabic countries that now they renew all the agreements and rectify what the Americans actually initiated. It was their decision to impose the ceasefire, where they knew that Hamas is violating every agreement.
So with respect to the Arab nations, because of course we've spoken now about the United States' responsibility, Israel recently just signed peace agreements with 4 Arab countries, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan. Do you see that as an insult, so to speak, or is that not related?
It's highly related. The last time we met Benjamin Netanyahu, our prime minister, I told him, you cannot call it in any way peace agreement unless you return my son. Yeah, I mean, you cannot hold these terror consequences as normal issue while you say, yeah, now we are friends. So he told me, you don't understand the relation between those Arab entities. I said, no, I don't understand it. I don't want to understand. But I know that peace agreements are signed between enemies, not between friends. Friends do not need any peace agreements. So once Israel has signed all these peace agreements, yes, it's my prime minister responsibility to bring my son home as part of this agreement, and otherwise it is not any agreement at all.
So I want to turn away now from Israel for a moment. The International Criminal Court, the ICC, has recently opened up an investigation into alleged Israeli war crimes with respect to Tzuk Eitan, the 2014 Gaza war. What is your response to those allegations?
Look, I told you I'm the mother of Hadar Goldin. I'm not a politician. I'm not a legal person. But along our way, learning with all our progress with respect to the international humanitarian law, with the assistance of Professor Erwin Kotler, previous Justice Minister of Canada, well known as a human rights activist. I mean, we learned a lot about ICC and the problem of ICC. But from my point of view, if you open investigation, do it for everything, not just be on one side. I mean, coming with an a priori view that the Israelis are the bad guys. Because I can tell you that the Hamas are violating the international, law, humanitarian law, by when they violated the ceasefire, killed my son's team and kidnapped him into Gaza until this very day. Now, I want to tell you some more interesting things, so my side. To this Gaza war, 2 of my sons enter Gaza. Hadar and Tzur, they are twins, two young officers. Now, Tzur was commanding a rescue force, going back and forth to Gaza to rescue Israeli soldiers, wounded, dead. And he also rescued like 40 to 50 Palestinians because they were caught between fire as the Hamas was using them as human shields. And he gave them its medicine, and they took the place of other Israelis. So while he was doing the most humanitarian thing, which no one actually asked him to do, at the very same time, Hadar was guarding the engineering forces that had to destroy the terror tunnels. So while they were looking for the terror tunnels, 2 hours after ceasefire, Hamas ambushed them and violating this humanitarian ceasefire. So talking about investigating the humanitarian law and any violation in Gaza, what do you mean? I mean, does those people of ICC really mean to go into it, all these kind of things? Or they just want to act as just for one side in this conflict? Now, of course, I'm telling you my point of view. And from my point of view, we discussed a lot whether to go to the ICC and submit our claim, but unfortunately, we know that they are pro-Palestinian. They would not listen to us. So this is my attitude to the ICC overall issue. But I do hope that someone somewhere will take it to the right place.
Do you think that even for the sake of making yourself heard, for the sake of putting what you're saying on the record, even knowing what you're saying about the ICC, is that worth it? Or are you saying that the ICC in your eyes has already decided and there's no point?
It's a good question. It's a dilemma. It's a dilemma because what I feel, a lot of other Israelis feel whenever it's on stake. So at the end of the day, there are no Israeli claims at the ICC agenda at all. So this is also not good. But I have to follow my legal advisors, and at the moment we don't submit anything. So this is what I have to tell you. The dilemma is a true dilemma.
I want to go back to what you were saying about the Biden administration, especially that President Joe Biden used to be vice president at the time of the war, and who was above John Kerry, who helped broker the ceasefire that you're talking about. Have you spoken with the Biden administration since they came into the White House?
No, we didn't have any chance. First of all, because of the corona, we couldn't fly anywhere. So we have plans to go on summer, I don't know, by September. Maybe we will go, and do hope to meet the people in administration. We have visited the Trump administration personnel at the White House, and we got a very responsive a positive response, but still, there is a big gap between talking and doing. And as I told you, now we feel that the stars are aligned. All the players are there. And I don't have to remind them. They know what happened, unless they want to hide something, which is very disturbing. It's very, very disturbing. I'm talking both on the Americans and the Israelis. But the fact that the Americans are now turning back, all these agreements with Iran and with the Hamas, with the Gaza, the Palestinian entities, this is the time to go back to August 1st and say, wow, this is the time. Just bring Hadar home, and Aron, and Avera, and Isham. That's it. So simple. So simple. So why don't do it? Now, I don't know the Biden people. I mean, before, after the war, when we tried to go, they didn't accept us at the Obama administration. Our main progress was with the UN resolution and with the people in the Trump administration was huge. But I do hope that they will continue to do what the right things to do based on professional and justice and understanding, and not use the political, point of view to throw us away.
All right. Well, Leah, again, I can't imagine what you're going through. I'm not going to pretend to be able to. But thank you so much for being with us, for joining us. And we pray, of course, for your son's return, as well as the return of all of the captured Israelis still held by the Hamas terror organization. Lieutenant Hadar Goldin, Staff Sergeant Oron Shaul, Avram Mengistu, and Hisham Al-Sayed. Thank you again, Leah.
Thank you very much.
All right. I'm Aaron Porras. Please tune in next time on Insider for more on everything Israel. If there's a topic that you'd like us to cover next, let us know about it in the comment sections online. And finally, for more news from Israel, follow ILTV on Facebook and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube and ILTV.tv channels. Thank you, be well, and we'll see you soon.